welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be back with you guys making videos. I took a little bit longer of a break than I had intended, but regardless, we're back. And today is with a really big topic, something that was sent in previously by you guys. And it's talking about how to know if it's time for you to have kids and if you're ready to have kids. And as a mom, I can really say from experience how it does change everything. And so it's really important to talk about this with your spouse and make sure that you're on the same page and ready for this big life change. So if you relate to that, this video is going to really help you out as we structure how to have a productive conversation and just things to consider. Hi, I'm Catherine, a licensed therapist and a virtual coach. And before we jump in, I would love it if you could please like this video and subscribe so that you make sure to catch the next video. So this is the exact topic that was sent in. Wanting help talking about having conversations around having kids. She says that her husband wants them now, but she thinks that their communication could be better first. So when there's a difference in readiness between one person and the other, sometimes the person that's not fully ready yet isn't saying no, they're just saying that they're not fully confident in where they are or where you guys are in your relationship to give a 100% yes. And I know that can be really hard to hear, but it also doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be really healthy to lean into those instincts to want to learn and grow before jumping into a new transition like having a kid. The truth is that just like any life transition, when you add kids into the mix, it doesn't really make things easier per se. It often just kind of highlights already existing issues that maybe were dormant or you felt like they were fine. There's just something about being sleep deprived, trying to care for a screaming child that can't communicate with you, all of these difficult things that just brings out and exposes, kind of brings it to the surface when you're under fire, if you will, what is already existing in your relationship. And so if you're the person that sent in this question or you just relate 100%, it makes sense that your brain is kind of just like firing off these warning signals saying like, let's get our relationship straight before we have our kid. So in this video specifically, I'm going to walk through some really important things to consider to help you decide if you're ready and specific practical things that you can do today to go have a conversation together to help you figure out what needs to happen if you're not fully ready, and then maybe to figure out like we're more ready than we thought. So something else that I want to mention at the beginning is that this topic, while yes, there's a lot of logistics involved, it's also very emotional. It's also very vulnerable. It can signal a lot of things versus just, are we ready to have kids? It can bring up questions like, are we stable enough? Do you trust me? Are we actually going to be able to make it through something so difficult like having kids? Will you show up for me when I'm postpartum? Can we financially handle this? I'm stressed about childhood things creeping up as we learn how to raise a child, right? There's so many things that happens when you open the can of worms of having children. If you're just seeking that reassurance in your relationship, it totally makes sense. There's just a lot of things that are involved. Here's something that I really want you to consider though. Is your hesitation, is your concern out of fear or more so kind of like wisdom where you're just really thinking through everything? Because there's a huge difference in that. This is where I would really encourage you to be honest with yourself. It's normal and very natural to be kind of scared to have kids. But then it also could just be you really evaluating, I don't think our relationship is ready for it. So I would really just, in the beginning of all of this, make sure that you figure out which camp you're actually in. You can ask yourself this: if we were to have a baby tomorrow, what is the biggest thing that I'm worried about? Is it finances? Is it the sleep deprivation? Is it trying to deal with the mental load and the new things that come with having a baby? Is it boundaries with in-laws? Is it your actual ways that you communicate or don't communicate? Is it how safe you feel or don't feel? Is it the nervousness about what your body would go through when you have a baby? Is it that you feel alone emotionally? Is it that you're worried about how your spouse will treat you if you're hormonal and struggling? Is it because you or maybe your spouse shuts down when things get really tense and you're worried that's gonna happen a lot? Like, get to the root of like, what are your biggest fears and put words and questions and really translate what is going on in my brain, okay? That's really important to kind of just set the foundation. Something else that I want to say is that you don't have to have a perfect marriage to have kids. In fact, you're not going to have a perfect marriage before you have kids. I certainly didn't have a perfect marriage before we had kids. So don't feel like you have to 100% have it all figured out and have it all together. That's impossible. But I do think it's wise to just kind of think through what could we get better at? What could we transition, or what could we change before we jump into the transition? So here are a few signs that you could pick up on to say that maybe, yes, you are strong and ready and have a good foundation to jump into this new transition in life. Keep in mind, this is not an exhaustive list, and I don't know your personal situation, right? So everything might not apply to you, but these are just overall, broadly, very helpful things to think about. First one is that you can repair after having conflict. I know that that in and of itself is a little bit broad because there's a lot of things that go into repairing, and also, one person in the marriage could feel like it's repaired and the other one could not feel like it's fully repaired. So there's like a lot of layers to it. I totally understand that. But it's really helpful to figure out for your marriage, do you feel like you can repair? Can you come back after you've had a disagreement, after you've had an argument, and apologize, own up to things that you didn't do super well, figure out a new game plan forward, like all of those things? Do you do that really well, or where's the breakdown within repairing after conflict? It's helpful to evaluate, do you guys give each other the silent treatment? Is there tone of voice issues? Is there, shutting down or walking away? Is there this like anxiety where you can't let things go until you fully talked it out? Do things drag on for days? Is there resentment that's built up, either in current conflict that you've experienced or over the years, over the course of your relationship? Are you like, we have a whole closet of skeletons that we have got to address? Those are definitely things to evaluate and figure out before you have kids, right? Because having a child, like I said, when you're in the fire, all of those impurities just rise to the surface. And so that is just naturally going to happen. And so it's really great to have a solid foundation where you're like, I know that we can disagree and we're going to come back together and repair it and be okay. I know that we give each other the benefit of the doubt more often than not. And so I'm confident that we can navigate this together. Something else to consider is, do you feel like you guys both go into things with a teammate mentality, or do you feel like you guys kind of lean on the roommate side of things? In other words, do you feel like you're approaching things trying to figure out like, okay, this is my life teammate partner and everything. I don't have to see them as the enemy. How can I use that mentality to talk about this? Or how can I use that when I'm looking at these dishes and I feel frustrated because I'm maybe initially blaming them, but then realizing like, okay, actually they had a really long day. And so as their teammate, I'm going to pick up some of the slack today because I have the capacity to do that, right? All of those little things are important to keep in mind. When I say roommates, I also just mean like, do you just take care of your own stuff and you don't really like do things together? Like, are you considerate of their day and their needs? If you go out to eat or grab food, are you making sure that you're doing it for the other person? Like, do you see your marriage as a we unit in all of the areas? I would definitely think through that for yourself and for your relationship and see, what does it feel like? Which camp do you guys kind of live in? Another reason that I bring this up is that sometimes one person in the relationship feels like they fall to like the default parent. And I don't even mean that in the sense of like disciplining parenting as your child gets older, but sometimes people feel like they carry the bulk of the mental load after they have a child. And I don't say this in a way that means that it's always this case, but a lot of times I see women feel like, okay, my body just changed and now I'm responsible for breastfeeding and I'm the one that's thinking about the bottles and the snacks that we've got to bring, both for the baby and for me, and the clothing, the extra clothing and the diapers and the wipes, and like my brain is juggling everything for this baby and you're not. And again, I'm not saying that's the case for every relationship. I'm just trying to get you to think through, when you're adding a new person and you're going to be juggling a lot of different things, do you feel like you can share the mental load and share parenting, right? Being a parent to this baby. Or if you guys get into a situation where like, I don't think that we're doing this very equally, then being able to, again, circle back to, can you talk things through and it go well? Something else too is, do you feel like you guys can approach each other on really, really heavy or big topics and it go okay, right? Can you talk about finances? Can you talk about the mental load? Can you talk about household chores? Can you talk about in-laws? Can you talk about intimacy? Can you talk about all of these things that are really, really sometimes bigger and heavy issues, and feel like you're on the same team, able to hear each other, able to hear the other person out, feel validated, feel listened to, feel like you also validate and listen to them, right? Can you talk about big topics successfully? A lot of times with parenting, bigger topics just come up, right? You have to navigate things in a different way. You have to figure out like, what are we gonna do when it comes to the medical side of our child? What are we doing holistic? Are we not? Are we going to homeschool or are we not? Like there's just like so many different things that come up with children, right? And you need to be able to have these really big conversations and share your opinions and your thoughts and make pros and cons lists and whatever it requires, but do so on the same team. And so that's just something else that I would consider for you to think about is like, how do you handle deep, big, heavy conversations now? And is there any area for growth in that before you have kids? Now I want to circle back to the original kind of like question or prompt that was sent in, and just to speak directly to the person who wants to wait before having kids, who doesn't feel like they're ready yet. I would really encourage you to get specific with what you feel like your relationship needs before you feel ready. Because sometimes what can happen is with hesitations, with not feeling sure, you can leave the other person in this kind of like limbo mode, where maybe they're just like, are we ever gonna say yes to this? And when is that gonna happen? And like, let's be real, life is so busy that sometimes conversations, if they're not intentionally carved out to like talk about it, like they don't happen. And so I think it's really important both for your sake and your spouse's sake to carve out and say, you know, these are the specific things that I think that we need to work on. And when I see growth and progress and when I feel like our relationship is moving in these areas, that's gonna help me feel more confident and ready to say yes. I would encourage you to really have a conversation and say, hey, here's my thought. You know, for the next 3 months, can we work on X, Y, or Z? Again, really specific. And at the end of that, let's put a calendar on the date, or put a date on the calendar, and like, let's talk through how have we done in the last 3 months. Let's really be honest and specific and hold each other accountable and see what progress we made. Do we feel like that we're doing a good job? Did we totally forget about it? Have we, you know, realized that we actually need more help in this area than this area? Like, set almost like benchmarks for yourself versus just kind of leaving it up to like, when we're ready, if that makes sense. I also have 3 questions that you guys can think about and talk about to help you kind of figure out these specifics too. What are we the most afraid of, and what are we looking forward to the most when it comes to having kids? What support do we individually need both during pregnancy and postpartum? And that is a question both for the husband and wife, right? The answers are gonna look different, but that's really important to think through. And then again, what is gonna help us feel ready? What needs to change for us to both feel like, yes, 100%, let's go ahead and start trying for a family? It's going to counseling. For some people, it's taking an online course. For some people, it's just reading parenting books or just talking more every single week to just kind of get a feel for how the other person is doing and practicing more regular communication, right? There's a wide variety of things. Some people want to save a certain amount of money so that they feel really like cushioned and protected because kids are expensive. I highly encourage you to grab the Ultimate Couples Check-In Guide. This is a resource that I have that is really, really going to help you in this situation. You can get access to it in the description. I'll put a link in there for you. But basically what's included is one, I guide you through how to create values for your home and your family. And then there's also weekly, quarterly, and a yearly, like an end of year check-in for you. There's questions, there's steps that you can take, all of the things that you need so that you're really evaluating where your life is going, and you don't just feel like time is passing you by and you're not even really paying attention to the things that you said that you cared about. My husband and I have done this for the last almost 8 years. We've been married almost 8 years this month. And it's just been something that's really life-giving. It helps our individual progress and growth, and then our collective home and our family. We did this before kids, we've done this after we've had our son. And so I really encourage you to make this a routine and a rhythm in your relationship as well. Right? And if you're the spouse that's like, I want kids right now, I encourage you to not hear your spouse's hesitation as no, and to not take it personally, right? They are wanting to really lean in and make sure that your relationship is strong. And so it is okay to for sure be sad or bummed, because obviously like you're ready now and it's hard to wait, but be encouraged that they are wanting to do something that's good for your marriage, and like link arms with them, lean into it and see how can you make things better, and see if then that will kind of help you even more so be ready to say yes to having kids. I hope all of these things have been really helpful. I also really wanted to mention, if you're like, we need some in-depth help, whether that's one-on-one, which you can definitely check out the description. There's going to be a link for working directly with me. But I also have an online course called the Couples Communication Roadmap. And honestly, I poured my heart and soul into this course. It is everything that you would get if we're working one-on-one, but you get it in an on-demand way, right? You have the videos, you have the modules, you have the workbook, and sometimes that's really beneficial for people with opposite schedules within your marriage, or budget, that's a more budget-friendly option. Or you're like, we're just so chaotic and busy, we couldn't really commit to like weekly counseling or whatever. This is a really great option because I talk about everything that you're going to need to know when it comes to communicating, resolving conflict. We talk about other big topics too, like the mental load and finances, just like so many things that you're going to need before having kids. And so if that's something that you specifically need, I definitely encourage you to check it out. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have more specific questions on this topic, I'm so passionate about it as a mom and a therapist. So go ahead and shoot me any questions that you have in the comments. And again, make sure that you please like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.